I'm not coming back. I met someone better. Your stuff's in storage. The kitchen went quiet around me as I stared at my phone. My wife's message hit like a brick. I am Neil Redding. I'm 51. It was late Wednesday night. Helen was supposed to be on day 3 of some girl's trip to Florida. Along with the message, she sent a screenshot of a bank transfer, $90,000 gone from our joint account, straight into hers. I set my phone down and finished my coffee. 16 years of marriage, gone in a couple sentences and a picture. Looking back, the signs were there. She started going on more weekend trips that turned into week-long getaways. She'd buy clothes but never wear them around me. Her phone calls would stop when I walked into a room. I notice everything, that's my job. I'm a forensic accountant, I dig through numbers for a living. But I didn't say anything then. Maybe that was my screw-up. Or maybe I screwed up way earlier, marrying someone who thought my work was just typing into spreadsheets. I opened my laptop and logged into an email Helen didn't know about. A few alerts popped up, security warnings from my bank. Someone had tried changing passwords on accounts Helen didn't even know existed. She was digging deep. I had to give it to her, she wasn't lazy. I picked up my phone, typed out 2 words, good luck. Then I called my brother, Evan. Remember that plan we came up with 3 years ago? Yeah, he said. Well, I said, it's time. You sure? Yep. She just made her move. I hung up and looked over at the wedding photo hanging in the hallway. Only picture in the condo with the 2 of us in it. Should have realized that meant something. I met Helen Foster when I was 34, fresh off a short first marriage and throwing everything into building up my accounting practice. Helen was 30, stunning and full of energy, always busy, didn't care one bit what I did for a living. Long as you make enough to live nice, I don't need to know the details, she'd say when I tried talking about cases. We dated for a year and got married. I paid for her stretching studio out of my own pocket. When she wanted a bigger house, I said sure. Fancy cars and expensive vacations. I didn't argue. I just paid. I remember once when I was helping my dad fix his deck, he stopped what he was doing and said, "Son, your wife sure likes spending your money. Just make sure she gives a damn about how you earn it." I laughed it off, but it stuck in my head. 5 years into the marriage, I started making changes. All legal and smart. I set up a couple LLCs, put some money into trusts, bought crypto, opened offshore accounts for my international clients. Helen only knew about our joint checking and savings. Over time, she got more into the fitness influencer crowd. Her Instagram page started blowing up. She went on trips with her wellness group. First it was just weekends, then she started disappearing for a week or more. You wouldn't like it, she'd say. Just stretching and juice stuff. Last year she forgot my birthday. When I reminded her, she said, "Sorry, I've been swamped with the studio expansion." Later that night, I finalized everything for my backup plan. The signs were all there, I just didn't want to admit what they meant. The next morning, I got up and made coffee like I always do. Habit's a habit, even when your life just blew up. I logged into my personal financial system, one I built myself, based on tools I use for work. With a few clicks, I launched the contingency plan Evan and I had put together years ago. First thing I did was freeze every joint account and shut down the credit cards. Then I flagged the $90,000 transfer as fraud and called some folks I know in the banking world to speed things up. I sent proof of what Helen had done to my lawyer, told him to start divorce papers right away. Then I called my mom. Helen left, I said. Took the money. Had my stuff moved out while she was pretending to be on vacation. There was silence for a few seconds. "I'm sorry, Neil," she said finally. "But I can't say I didn't see this coming." "What now?" "I protect what's mine," I said. An hour later, Helen tried calling. I let it ring. Then she called again and again. Then a text, "What the hell did you do? The money's gone. My cards are frozen." Instead of respond, I drove out to the storage place she mentioned in her message. Used the code she gave me. Found 2 boxes with some of my clothes and my laptop. That was it. All the rest, photos, books, stuff from my dad, was gone. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money, this was someone trying to cut me out of my own damn life. I stopped at a coffee shop and opened my laptop. Logged into a couple professional databases I have access to. I started looking into Blake Sharp, the fitness guy Helen had been tagging in her Instagram posts. The better guy she ran off with. Didn't take long. His gym was bleeding money. Maxed out business cards, lease payments he couldn't afford. Month ago, Helen co-signed on a car loan with him. After closing my laptop, I got in my car and drove to a hotel. It had been years since I'd needed one. But for the first time in a long while, my head felt clear, no more second-guessing, no more noise. I was dialed in. I knew exactly what I had to do next. Next morning, I walked into my office like nothing had happened. Just routine. My assistant, Nina, looked up from her desk, eyebrows raised. "Neil. I thought you'd be out. Dana's called here 4 times already." "Did she?" I said, not really a question, more like confirmation. She sounded stressed. "Said there was a problem with your accounts. Said she urgently needed to speak with you." I nodded. "If she calls again, just let her know she can reach out to my lawyer. She's got until noon." Helen didn't wait that long. She moved from phone calls to showing up in person. Around mid-morning, the receptionist buzzed me. "Your wife is here. She says it's important." I sighed and made my way down to the lobby. There she was, standing like she was about to walk into a photo shoot. Sunglasses pushed up on her head, sport outfit perfectly matched, posture confident. She smiled when she saw me, same smile I'd seen 100 times when she wanted something. "Neil," she said, voice loud enough for the whole lobby to hear, "there's been a huge mix-up with the bank. All our accounts are frozen." I stepped a little closer and spoke low so only she could hear. "It's not a mix-up. You moved money without my permission. The bank flagged it as potential fraud." That wiped the smile off her face. "But it was our joint account," she snapped. "I'm your wife." "No," I said calmly. "You're my soon-to-be ex-wife. One who drained our savings and told me, over text, that she'd found someone else. That's not a misunderstanding, that's financial misconduct." She answered, "You can't do this to me. I've already put down deposits on a new place. I've made commitments, with Blake." "I'm aware," I said. "I know all about Blake Sharp." Her face went pale. "You're investigating me." "I'm protecting myself. There's a difference." She narrowed her eyes. "I'll fight this. I'm entitled to half of everything." I looked her in the eye. "Half of what's in the joint accounts?" "Sure. But I think you're assuming that's all there is." She blinked, thrown off. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out," I said. "During discovery." And with that, I turned and walked back to my office. Later that afternoon, an email landed in my inbox. It was from a lawyer Helen had just hired, probably that morning. The message demanded full access to my financial records and threw in a thinly veiled threat about exposing irregularities in my accounting practice if I didn't comply. It was sloppy. A bluff. I forwarded it to my own attorney with a short message. "Proceed as planned." By that evening, Helen had shifted to rallying our mutual friends. My phone lit up with texts from people asking what I was doing, saying I was being harsh, controlling, vindictive. Not one of them asked where she'd been all week. Not one of them brought up the money. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I went to the gym, the same community gym I'd been using for years. I put on my headphones, hit the weights, and didn't stop until my arms were shaking. Then I drove back to my hotel. The trap was closing. But not on me. 3 days later, my attorney called. "We found something interesting," she said. Helen had been slowly siphoning money out of our joint account for over a year. Started with small transfers. Then they got bolder. "Where'd it go?" I asked, already half sure I knew. "Multiple places," she said. Some to her personal savings, but the bulk went into an LLC tied to Blake Sharp. Almost $75,000. All from our shared funds. So, she used our money to bankroll him. Exactly. Which lets us add financial infidelity to the divorce case. I thanked her and hung up. I can't say I was shocked, but even when you expect the blow, it still lands hard. She'd been planning everything. Laying the groundwork for a year, funding her exit strategy and her new guy's failing business with my money. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Back off. Helen deserves better. Don't make this messier than it already is. Blake Sharp." Getting directly involved. Next morning, I drove to my brother Evan's house. He works in digital security, which has always made him a perfect partner when I need backup in financial investigations. We've worked cases together before, but this one was personal. "I need everything you can dig up on Sharp Gym LLC, I told him. Bank accounts, loans, credit applications, the whole deal. Evan raised an eyebrow. "We're sticking to legal methods, right?" "Of course," I said. "We're just using public info better than most people can." Several hours later we had the picture. Blake wasn't just in trouble, he was drowning. His business looked good on Instagram, but the reality underneath was ugly. The fancy new gym equipment, the renovations, the promo events, it was all built on risky loans. And recently, Dana's money. But that wasn't the worst of it. "There's something else," Evan said, pointing to his screen. "Take a look at this." Blake had applied for a small business loan 3 months ago. He listed the gym equipment as collateral. "That's pretty standard," I said. "Sure," Evan replied. "But look at who co-signed." I leaned in. Dana's signature, clear as day, right next to his. She'd co-signed a $150,000 equipment loan before she left me. Evan looked at me. "And here's the kicker, it says the loan carries joint responsibility with her spouse. They used your marital status to secure better terms." I stared at the screen. Without saying a word, she tied my credit and assets to her boyfriend's failing business. "Exactly," Evan said. "And it doesn't stop there. There are 2 credit cards, a leased car, and a rental agreement on a new commercial space. All co-signed by Dana. All that backed by stuff she had no right to touch," I muttered, mostly to myself. I stood up and walked over to the window. Kids were outside in the yard next door, running around, kicking a ball, screaming and laughing. No clue how messy grown-up life could get. No clue that 2 people could share a life, a home, and still end up like this. "She doesn't know what she's done," I finally said. "And he sure as hell doesn't either." The next morning, I sat down with my lawyer and laid it all out, every account, every loan, every form we'd dug up. "I want to move fast," I told her. "Before they even realize the walls are closing in." She nodded while going through the papers. "We'll file for emergency protection on all assets today. That equipment loan alone is enough to lock things down." Later that day, I drove to Blake's gym. Sleek setup, big windows, lots of inspirational crap painted on the walls like, "Grind now, shine later," and all that. His face was everywhere, banners, signs, posters, like he was some celebrity trainer. Inside, a bunch of young people were half working out and half taking pictures of themselves. I spotted Blake right away, tall and tan guy with big fake smile. He walked over like he was glad to see me. "You must be Neil," he said, sticking out his hand. "Helen talks about you." "I'm sure she does," I said, not shaking it. "We need a word. Somewhere private." He got a little stiffer but nodded and led me to his office. Glass walls, fancy desk, everything staged like a tech startup. Once we were inside, he shut the door. "What's this about?" he asked. I pulled out a folder and placed it on his desk. "That's every financial paper connecting you to Dana, loans, leases, credit cards. All co-signed using marital assets. Mine." He opened the folder slowly, flipping through a couple pages. "I don't get it." "It's real simple," I said. "Helen used our marriage, my name, my financials, to co-sign your business stuff. Now we're getting divorced. Those co-signs won't hold up." His face started losing color as he kept reading. He looked up. "These were business decisions. Legit ones. Maybe. But the bank said yes to all this because she was married to me. Now she can't touch a dime." He shut the folder and leaned back. "So, what are you here for? You want me to pay you back?" "Not my goal," I said, standing up. "I just thought you should be ready. That phone of yours is gonna start ringing soon. The banks want their money." He crossed his arms. "Helen told me you were loaded. That this wouldn't be a big deal." "Money was never the problem," I said. "Trust was." I walked to the door but stopped and turned back. "One last thing." When she left, she took a few things that mattered, pictures, my dad's watch. "I want those back." He stared at me for a second, then gave a small nod. "I'll see what I can do." The next day, a delivery guy dropped a box at the front desk of my hotel. Inside were the missing photos, my dad's watch, and a few other small things. No note, but I got the message. Later that day, my lawyer called. The judge had signed off on our emergency request. Every account, asset, property, frozen. Nothing could move until the divorce was done. I logged into my system that night to check things. Helen had tried logging into our frozen accounts 12 times in one day. She'd also tried to open a new credit line, using our house as backing. Denied. Then my phone buzzed. I picked up. "What the hell did you do?" she snapped. Her voice was shaking. "The bank called in all of Blake's loans. They're taking the gym equipment." "That's too bad," I said, calm as ever. "This is petty, Neil. You're destroying him just to hurt me." "I'm not doing a damn thing to him," I said. "You used our marriage to get those loans. That's fraud." Her tone shifted. "We can fix this. Come home. Let's just talk." 16 years married and she still thought a softer voice would flip a switch. It didn't. "There's nothing to fix," I said. "The divorce is happening. The investigation is happening. Blake's about to find out what skipping due diligence costs." I hung up and blocked her number. Slept better that night than I had in months. 2 weeks later, we sat across from each other in a law office conference room. Court-ordered mediation. Helen showed up with her lawyer. She looked like she hadn't slept in a while. Clothes still expensive, makeup still perfect, but the stress was showing. Her lawyer spoke first. "My client is willing to be reasonable, despite the way this has been handled so far." My lawyer gave a polite smile and slid a document across the table. "Well, you'll want to see this." The bank finished its investigation. They confirmed Helen forged Neil's name on multiple loan applications. She used joint assets without his consent. It's fraud. Helen's lawyer skimmed the report and blanched. "We'll need time." "Of course," my lawyer said. "But the bank's already forwarded it to the district attorney." This meeting is a final courtesy before it goes criminal. Helen turned to me. Charges? You're serious? I met her eyes. I didn't report it. The bank did. That's what happens when you forge signatures. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something. Helen shook her head like she couldn't believe it. If Ms. Foster signs the settlement today, my lawyer continued, Neil's willing to send a statement to the bank. Could help lessen the charges. He also won't file anything else for the stolen items or the unauthorized account transfers. Helen didn't say a word. She just sat there while everything she built up in her head started crumbling in front of her. She never thought I'd just walk away and let the truth do the work. The offer's fair, I said. You keep your stretching studio. You keep your car and your stuff. No alimony. But you take on all the debts you ran up in my name. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. And what about Blake? My lawyer didn't even blink. His problems are his. But without Neil backing those loans, the bank's already moving in. Helen signed the settlement without saying another word. As we stepped out of the conference room, she reached out and grabbed my arm. I never thought you'd actually stand up to me, she said. You always just went along with things. That was a decision I made, I told her. Just like this mess was yours. I turned and walked away. A month later, I checked out of the hotel and moved into a modest little house not far from downtown. Nothing flashy, just an old craftsman-style place with solid bones and a lot of character. It needed work, which was fine by me. Gave me something to do in the evenings, kept my hands moving and my mind out of places it didn't need to go. Word got to me through a few mutual friends that Helen had moved to Pennsylvania for a fresh start. Her Instagram was full of scenic views and vague motivational quotes about new beginnings. Blake ended up selling the gym. Some big chain bought it out, and last I heard, he'd packed up and moved to San Diego. Neither of them ever mentioned how things fell apart. People don't usually advertise when they've screwed up. One Sunday, Evan came by to help me hang new cabinets in the kitchen. Any updates from Helen? He asked, holding a tape measure while I marked the wall. Nope, I said. And I don't expect any. You know, he said, you could have gone after her hard. The fraud alone could have buried her financially. I just shrugged. What would have been the point? She's not my problem anymore. We didn't say much after that. Just worked side by side, measuring, cutting, drilling, falling into a quiet rhythm that felt more like therapy than home improvement. After a while I spoke up. I'm thinking about taking a little time off. Maybe drive up to do some fishing. Evan looked up. Dad would have liked that. You haven't been up there since the funeral. That night, after he left, I sat out on the back porch with a glass of whiskey in my hand. The neighborhood was still, just a couple of dogs barking in the distance and a kid's laugh floating through the air now and then. It felt more grounded here than in the upscale neighborhood Helen always insisted on. More honest. I started thinking back over the last 16 years. How I'd let someone else steer the wheel in my own life. How I'd seen the warning signs but told myself they didn't matter. And how, when the time finally came, I'd been ready, because some part of me had always known it would. It wasn't about winning or settling the score. Just a calm, steady sense that I'd finally let go.